Hey everybody, welcome back to Quali-Tea time. So, there's a fair bit of news today, so I figure I'll start with the more positive stuff, which is that I have some new toys. And this is all in the run-up to MCM. I am trying to make sure that the stuff I can pump out as a consequence of MCM is of as high a standard as I can get it to be without bankrupting myself again. So, the first thing that I have here is the Shoot 2-inch GoPro LCD screen for GoPros 3 and up, more or less, and basically I just need this as a viewfinder. If you saw my footage from MCM the last time I was there, and as well as my GoPro footage from my office tour not too long ago, you'll notice that I tend to aim the camera way too high up, and that is a consequence of the GoPro itself having no built-in viewfinder, because it's an action camera, it's meant to be stuck to your head, it's meant to be very small and extremely light. So as a consequence, you can't actually fit a actual viewfinder in there as standard, so you need to actually get this. So this tiny little LCD screen shows me exactly where my camera is pointed. I now know exactly what shot I'm getting. It does drain the battery a bit, but on the whole, I consider this to be still quite a lot cheaper than getting a smartphone and using the GoPro app, which would cost me a few £100 or about 10 times the cost of that screen. So yeah, that's number one. The second piece I got is this, the wrist mount for a GoPro. Now, this doesn't exactly come with an actual casing. This is the standard casing that applies to basically everything, but you slot your GoPro into here, close the back window, and then you slot your wrist through here, just tighten it up, and you can rotate it however you like. But basically, that means that this time at MCM, I will not be wandering around with this strapped to my face. Instead, I can pop it up, point it wherever I want. The LCD screen at the back there tells me exactly what I'm looking at, and record whatever I like as and when. And that is by... This name is a bit strange. Fuzz and I are still trying to work out exactly what the name of this company is, but it's by Eggs Snow or Eggs Now. Point of preference there, I guess. So yeah, that is new innovations in my GoPro technology. I feel like I'm just getting deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole the further, the longer I have the GoPro, but I'm not complaining, honestly. So, grab your cuppas, put your feet up, and settle in, because I've got some politics to talk about. So, there are 3 points here, and one of these cropped up literally as I was preparing for this video. The first is that newly trained doctors in the UK that decide to travel abroad, perhaps because the NHS is massively underfunded, will face fines for doing so. This basically is an effort to incentivize new doctors to stay in the UK to work in the NHS, because the NHS currently has quite a significant staffing problem because it's underfunded and can't actually afford to hire anybody. But basically this amounts to putting new doctors under house arrest in the country because they're new doctors and we need the skills. This, I would think, violates human right for trafficking, but we'll get to that in a moment. The next thing that popped up literally as I was preparing here is that 150 new military cadet units in schools may be assigned fairly soon, which is to say that we are encouraging our schools to put children into, well, students, I should say, not quite children, into the military. Not necessarily a bad thing until you hear point 3, which is that Theresa May, which is our current Prime Minister that no one voted for, says that UK soldiers in future international conflicts will not be liable according to the human rights laws. Which is to say that if one of our soldiers goes abroad and commits a human rights violation, no one can touch them. So, just to cut that up to you there, our medical practitioners aren't allowed to leave the country. We are recruiting school students for the military, and when they're in the military, they don't have to worry about the human rights laws. If this sounds terrifying to you, it absolutely should do, and it genuinely worries me, like, ridiculously. I legitimately was kind of awake at night last night over just like 2 pieces of these news, not the 3. Unfortunately for me, I kind of predicted that a human rights violation was coming along as soon as I saw the newly trained doctor's piece, so I'm not going to even try and predict what the next step here might be. What I will say though is, this is probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better, so maybe reconsider travelling here if you happen to be outside the UK. I'm kind of stuck here, so Bippers, please. Anyways, onto slightly cheerier news. Here's the schedule. On Thursday night at 11 PM BST at twitch.tv/lyinginbedmon, we have some more Midnight Souls as we march through the Road of Sacrifices. On Friday, we have an episode of XCOM 2, where we are rescuing our long-lost comrade. On Saturday, we have Dungeon Maker, and ostensibly we might have a D&D stream. It depends entirely upon the return of Andy from Australia, so keep an eye on Twitter for that. On Sunday, the Dormitory of Edgerton gets its groundbreaking. On Tuesday, Mating Do gets to work as Fuzz finds the machine. And we also have Yog Dwarves Live number 60, now with fewer bugs. Then on Wednesday, XCOM 2 shows the full wage of its progress. And now onto the questions. So these are, of course, drawn from the comment section of the preceding video, so you happen to have anything you want to ask me, drop it in there and we'll see where it goes. So our first question of the day comes from Crystal Enderheart. Do you know of Welcome to Night Vale? I do. It does seem to have a fairly rich backing. I don't personally enjoy it too much, though, because it tends to boil down to every episode is weird thing, like, blithely going on, and then this litany of little other things that are just strange overtly, and the odd sponsor or warning, that kind of thing. It's sort of the exact same composition in more or less the exact same production, like, every single time, at least as far as my ears see it, so I'm not generally a fan of that one, but for a similar thing, I am a fan of Tales from the Magic Tavern, with Arnie Niekamp and Aaron Jakova and Brian DeGiorgi. That they actually have a guest every time, so they're pretty much mandated to have a different thing. So they have somebody in, they talk about goings-on, they talk about this guest who is usually some strange profession or creature or both. And they talk about various ongoing side plots occasionally, but mostly it's an actual interview segment, so that actually has a much more varied kind of content to it, which I like. Opalite asks, which lying is easiest for you to portray? Well, the obvious answer really is Neverlying, because Neverlying straight up started out just as me playing Minecraft. Beyond that, which lying, I guess, is probably the easiest for me to portray. I'm a bit evil, I guess, a little bit, so, my experience with horror movies as well, so I have a fairly firm foundation when it comes to playing Witchline. Which colours do you play in Magic the Gathering, asks Draco's Cave. The first deck that I made was a blue-black ninja deck back in the Kamigawa era, where Tamio is currently from. I don't think we've actually gone back there anytime recently. After that, I made a multi, I think it might have been a red, technically, artifact deck from Mirrodin Age, where everything was mirror and based on like combos and infinite loops, but these days, I pretty much play blue-red. So here, I have two of my youngest decks. So this one, in the lovely, lovely case, is my Kuldotha Goblins. Kuldotha was the Scars of Mirrodin era sort of thing, and basically this deck is 100% red, and it's built around a few equipments and just goblins, basically. But if you do this thing right, you can have 3 goblins out on turn 1. That's pretty nice, I dare say. So yeah, people hated playing against this, it has to be said. I do have a blue mill deck from Innistrad era around here, but that rarely won anything. People are always wise to its shenanigans. But my favourite to date is this one. This one comes from Ravnica, I believe it is. I honestly don't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure it's Ravnica, City of Guilds. Yeah, with a little bit of Innistrad in it, and basically, this is an Izzet deck. Izzet is blue-red, and this focuses on this particular card here. This is Gutter Snipe. And Gutter Snipe is fairly simple. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. The key word there being each. if you're in a big multiplayer game, it deals 2 damage to everybody, and everybody generally starts with 2 health. Well, 20 health, and I lose 2 every time I cast a spell. So, you've noticed a theme here, presumably, that I like to play blue. And the reason I like to play blue is that blue has counterspells. Counterspells are things that you can use more or less whenever to prevent your opponents or opponents from doing something, like summoning a creature, hurling a fireball at your face, that kind of thing. I've played blue pretty much from my start with Magic, and as a consequence, I don't really know how to play without counterspells. Like, my red deck there has some direct damage spells, otherwise known as burn spells, but it's just not quite the same for me. And blue also tends to have a lot of card draw, so if your hand is getting light and you don't have many options, you cast one of those and you can get a few more. So blue is a very good fixer for me. I can't really play a game at the kind of speed that a deck without blue might be required to. I prefer to be a bit more on the ball, as it were. So blue is my strong favourite colour in Magic the Gathering, and red is a close second. And then after that I think it's black, but I rarely ever play green or white. I did design a Gorgon deck for green and black at some point, but I never actually assembled it. But yeah, that's my Magic the Gathering. And that is it for today, so I hope you've all enjoyed. I'll catch you all next time.